Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, media learners. This is MD Saiful Islam and assistant teacher of Oregon High School of Bangladesh. And you are most welcome in my Saiful English Academy again. Dear learners, how are you? How about that you are very fine by the grace of Allah inshallah, and watched my previous classes smartly and with the reference of my previous classes. Today's class I have been present in front of with a new argument, a new class. About changing sentence from simple to complex to compound. Rule number 7, 2 dot 2 equal to so dot that equal to very dot and with the reference of my previous classes. So my dear learners, knowledge, take a look at the board and try to understand. My dear learners, in my previous classes, you told that, my dear learners, rule number 1, rule number 2, rule number 3, rule number 4, rule number 5, rule number 6, and with the reference of my previous classes, today's class I have been present to introduce you with a new arrangement show, our new class. My dear learners, of that. You watched my previous classes about changing sentence from simple to complex to compound sentence. There are various kinds of relationship among simple, complex, and compound sentence. In my rule number 1 was that, my dear learners, by plus gerund is equal to if you is equal to and in Rolomacho was that my children's relationship of among them simple, complex, and compound. My children's with that Plagiaran is equal to if you don't or etc. various kinds of rule I discussed in my previous classes and with the reference of my previous classes to discuss been present in front of you. My dear learners, you'll have to mind that 2.2 among to the two, so the that and very the and among these three categories of items, there's a great connection or relationship. But you have to mind that, my dear learners, to the two is used in a simple sentence, so the that is used in a complex sentence. Where the and is used in a compound sentence. Of course, you know that from my previous classes. Because, my dear learners, in my previous classes, you were told various kinds of selection or of simple sentence, complex sentence, and compound sentence. And today's class have been present in front of a new arrangement. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. So, with the reference of this relationship among them, I have written an example in the board. So, my dear learners, take a look at the board and try to understand. So, Roy is too weak to work. Take a look at the board and try to understand what categories of sentence. Of course, this sentence is a simple sentence because, my dear learners, this sentence is mixed with two. Suppose, my dear learners, you are told to change this category of sentence into a complex sentence into a complex sentence. So, my dear listeners, what steps should you try to turn such categories of sentence into a complex sentence? My dear learners, I want to suggest you that, my dear learners, you'll have to use so that instead of to. So, my dear learners, start writing complex. Rohim is so weak that. Okay, my dearness, at first steps you'll have to use so that instead of true. My dearness, of course, you know that that is subordinating conjunction, and you'll have to now you'll have to form the subordinate clause. Subordinate clause precondition of for subordinate clause is that, my dear learners, at first subordinate conjunction, then subject, then finite verb. Okay, my dear learners, so try to write already subordinate clause. Subordinating conjunction is that has been written. Now you'll have to write subject. subject, you'll have to write the first subject again. Rohim, first subject Rohim, so you had better write he. Then you'll have to write according to the sequence to express the meaning of the statement. You'll have to use can't or couldn't. Can't or couldn't. You'll have to mind that, my dear learners. If any jar is used after subject, then you'll have to use can't. But if was or where is used after subject, you will have to use couldn't. Of the you will have understood clearly. Then write verb. Here verb work. So, major learners, try to understand what categories of sentence must be changed in this. Major learners, we can see that this sentence has two clauses. Rain is so weak. Principal clause that he can show work is a subordinate clause. And according to the precondition and according to the definition of a complex sentence, we can see that, my dear learners, a complex sentence is a type of sentence which has a principal clause and a subordinate clause. A bit you have understood clearly. Now, suppose, my dear learners, you are told to change the statement into a compound sentence. So, my dear learners, what step should you take in this case? So, my dear learners, try to follow me. Compound. You will have to write very dot dot and instead of two dot dot two. So, my dear learners, start solving this problem. Rohim is very quick and okay. Then learners, of course, you know that my dear learners, and each coordinate conjunction, and already we have gotten our principal clause. Our principal clause, rain is a very weak. Is a principal clause. Now we'll have to form another principal clause. But my dear learners, can you gauge what is the precondition to form a principal clause? You'll have to mind that, my dear learners, the precondition of a principal clause is that you'll have to write at subject, then finite verb, and then extension. So write the first subject again. He, in this case, you'll have to use can't or couldn't, then verb. And take a look at the board and try to understand. Already we have gotten two principal clauses mixed with or joined together by coordinating conjunction. And Rohim is very weak and he can't work. Can't work. And of course, it's a remarkable thing that, my dear learners, you had better write and so and so and so. But you have understood clearly. My dear learners, trying to write another example. Take a look at the board and try to understand. The baby was too small to speak. Okay, let's take a look at the board and try to understand. So, this sentence, of course, a simple sentence because this sentence is mixed with the two dot two. Okay, let's take a look at the board and try to understand. Suppose you are told to change a sentence of statement into a complex sentence. Middle learners. In this sketch, what steps should you take? At first steps, to change a sentence of statement into a complex sentence, you have to use so that instead of two dot dot two, two dot dot two. So many dear learners start writing the baby was so small that. Okay, my learners, and now you'll have to write the first subject again. Here, first subject the baby. So you'll have to use it. Then you'll have to use can't oblique couldn't. Can't oblique couldn't. In this case, you'll have to use couldn't because you are told that, my dear learners, if was oblique word is used, in principal clause, then you'll have to use couldn't. Then verb speak. Okay, maybe let's take a look at the board and try to understand. So, already this sentence must be changed into a complex sentence because in a complex sentence there are principal clause and a subordinate clause. Hope that you have understood clearly. Middle and so now suppose you are trying to change suspense of sentence into a compound sentence. So what steps should have tried to change suspense of statement into a compound sentence? I want to suggest you that, my dear learners, you'll have to use very the dot and so instead of to the dot to. So, my dear learners, start solving the waving was very small and so. Okay, major units. Now, in this sketch, you'll have to bring the first subject again. Here, first subject the baby, so you'll have to use subject pronominal form of the baby each. And in this sketch, you'll have to use couldn't, then principal verb, finite verb. Okay, major units. Take a look at the board and try to understand. Already, we have got into principal clause. First, principal clause. The baby was very small, and second, the principal clause, each couldn't work, and joined together by coordinate conjunction, and so that you have understood clearly. Miscellaneous various kinds of examples may be given with the reference of this relationship. So, miscellaneous. I'm trying to show you about another example. So, let's take a look at the board and try to understand. For him was so liar that he couldn't speak the truth. Okay, major units. At first, you'll have to identify what categories of sentence. It's of course complex sentence. Now, suppose you are told to change such kinds of statement into a compound sentence. So, my dear Leonard, so what steps should I check to change such kinds of statement into a compound sentence? Before changing the sense of the sentence into compound sentence or simple sentence or complex sentence. At first, I'll have to remember that, my dear learners, there is a great connection or relationship among three items. That means 2 dot 2 is equal to so dot that and very dot and so. So, my dear learners, you'll have to write very dot and so instead of so dot that's enough. Okay, my dear learners, start solving. Korean was very liar and so couldn't speak the truth. Of the joy you have understood clearly. Middle learners, suppose you are told to change a sentence of statement into a simple sentence. So, my dear learners, what steps should I take to change a sentence of statement into a simple sentence? You have to mind that, my dear learners. You'll have to use to instead of so that. So, start solving, my dear learners. Korean was too liar Joe. Okay, my dear learners, but you'll have to mind that, my dear learners, in this sketch, you'll have to delete subject couldn't subject in as well as couldn't. And you have to write the extension of this statement. Speak the truth. Okay, dear listeners, hope that you have understood clearly. Dear listeners, now I'm trying to write another example. Rufa was very truthful, and so she couldn't tell a lie. Okay, Major, let's take a look at the board and try to understand. So, what category of sentence is this? Of course, it's a compound sentence because this sentence is mixed with a varied order and so. Suppose you are trying to change such kind of statement into a complex sentence. So, my dear learners, what steps should I check? Medallions, it's a very easy role to change a sentence of statement into a complex sentence. Only you'll have to use pseudo to that instead of very the answer. Then that's enough. So, such as solving yourself, Rupa was so truthful that she couldn't chill up lie. Okay, my dear learners, that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, suppose you are trying to change a sentence of statement into a simple sentence. So, my dear learners, so what steps should I check? At first, first step is, my dear learners, you'll have to use two the two instead of very the and so. So, start solving. Rufa was so truthful. Sure. Then, media learners, you have to delete and so subject and couldn't. And you have to write from verb to finish last till uh, lie. Hope that you have understood clearly. My dear learners, I don't want to learn into this class, but I want to share some experience with you, my children. Of course, you know that I'm a new teacher or a new teacher or a new YouTube channel, and I'm trying to use English conversation at the time of making my various kinds of video classes. So, my dear learners, if you notice any faults or mistakes in the midst of my video classes, please excuse me and fetch you or meet you so that I can help you in this way through my video classes throughout my life. So, my dear learners, no more today. Come to you again with a new argument and new class. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.